in chapter 37, what we get, I think, is a strong sense of the misuse of public space, of events that ideally perhaps shouldn't even be taking place behind closed doors, being brought right out into the urban space. So Nero constructs these banquets and basically treats the whole city as if it were his own home. And there's a real question there, I think, about whether he should even be using his own home in this manner. But Nero's exploitation of public space and the sense of shamelessness, I think, about this comes out very strongly in this particular passage. The other thing I think that is worth really highlighting is actually how Tacitus is using this very memorable chapter to make a point about himself as a historical writer. So he's selecting it as a single example, but one which is indicative of, I think, a broader pattern. So he's saying this sort of thing happened all the time, but I'm only going to give you one particular example of this banquet that was prepared by Tigellinus. And so in doing that, I think he casts himself as being relatively restrained, but it's also a technique whereby he condemns Nero and Nero's associates, I think, by basically saying, I could give you many more examples of this sort of thing, but I'm not going to. The sheer sort of visual power, I think, of this passage really comes out. So you get the ships that are decorated with gold and with ivory, and the cataloguing of the rowers who are arranged according to their knowledge of vices. And on that central sort of stage, you get, or around that central stage, you get the banks that are filled with people gesticulating with their naked bodies, obscene movements. So there's a central focus, but around that there are people again engaging in what would be considered entirely inappropriate kinds of displays. And he exploits also the vivid effect of night falling and the lights really showing all of this debauchery up for everyone to see. And there are sound effects as well, which are worth noting. The circum iecta tecta sonare cantu, so very nicely sort of alliterative phrase, which draws attention to that particular phrase in the Latin. So it's a display of completely shameless sort of behaviour, which the implication is simply shouldn't be happening anywhere, let alone where everyone can see. In this passage, when Tacitus describes the marriage between Nero and Pythagoras, he describes Pythagoras with this phrase uni ex illo contaminatorum grege. And that's Latin which would make a Roman reader think back to Horace Odes 137, contaminato cum grege turpium, I think it is. And that's an ode where Horace is talking about Cleopatra and those people around her. So it's almost casting Nero and Pythagoras as one of the great enemies of Rome, and that is Cleopatra. And linking Pythagoras with Cleopatra's associates, making him seem exotic, making him seem foreign, making him seem utterly un-Roman. And that would also apply, of course, to Nero himself.